Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our lunch and learn. Alan Badgley is off with the SBA, and he's doing his own version of the lunch and learn there, so he won't be joining us today. And so we were going to go over the schedule, some of the things that are going to be happening, getting some input from you folks, what you're thinking about that. And but first, before we get started with this, um, I'd like to have Bijo Mathews, who's the director of the Texas SBDC. He's out of San Antonio, is going to have a little bit of a discussion on his views on the value of attending the event. And he has to take off in about 15, 20 minutes. So we wanted him to get his time in. And so we'd like to just kick it off with that. So Bijo, over to you.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. And folks, you're in for a treat with this event. And so let me start by talking a little bit about myself. I'm the director for the Technology Commercialization Center here in Texas. We are the DOE accredited technology center for the state of Texas. So we focus in on serving the technology needs for clients across the state. So having said that, our particular focus is on advanced science and technology companies, and that's what we focus in on. So what we find, so I was there from the very founding of this event back in 2017. We had discussions in 2016 and we launched it. And I've also posted our center's website on the chat box if you want to link to that. Another component that I think would help a lot of folks here is if you would go to your particular profile and add your state to your name. You can do it with renaming next to your profile, those three dots. That will help folks here get a picture of where you are located at. So what I wanted to kind of say is that when we put this together, the whole idea was, how do we help companies, small businesses in particular, foster and build their innovation and help build traction for their innovation and help take it to the market. And we've had a lot of companies, especially who are doing that, and they do a lot of customer discovery. A challenge that was there at the time and still is they weren't talking to the potential end users of the technology. They weren't talking to the decision makers of their innovation that would decide on their innovation. So that is really where Encountering Innovation got birthed at with Alan and us. And this is really a multi-state event because I represent the state of Texas, and we collate innovations here. And then same thing in Oklahoma and Kansas and all the other states that are participating, because essentially we are doing this to bring traction for your innovation to the defense, science, and technology tech scouts. It's incredibly valuable because what happens is businesses come and they get a perspective of what the potential end user needs, right? So they're understanding that. The second part of that is also understanding how the procurement, the eventual procurement of the innovation and the direction the innovation needs to take for them to engage with the Department of Defense. These are not things that are published in some document somewhere. You kind of have to go through the process, but you can get lost in the complexity of how those things work when you don't have a chance to engage with someone in person and have a conversation with them, and they can guide you. So that is where we have found tremendous value for small businesses. Is it makes this real. They know they are talking to someone inside the DoD. Someone from the DoD is giving them perspective on their innovation. They leave with knowing where to focus their innovation developments on, because a challenge for any small business is, where do I put my dollars in the R&D? Which segment, which attribute do I develop more? Which is more important? Those are very hard things to get a perspective on when you're just working in your office. But when you're out there interacting with scouts and other businesses also, you leave with this perspective of this is what they liked about my innovation, and this is what I want to develop more of, and maybe I shouldn't be putting a lot of resources in this development and so on. So yeah, and another thing that I want to say is, and you probably heard it, but I want to say it again, and is that this is not a trade event. You're not going to leave this event with a contract, and that's not what this is designed for. This is designed for you to engage. The key word is engage with S&T advisors and other folks, and so you've got to come prepared to be and be open-minded enough to take feedback and responses and be willing to make those adjustments and product developments that you need to help ensure your success. And the way this works, which I'm sure they'll touch on here, is you will meet with companies and you'll meet with tech scouts. Now, you don't want to show up to this event without having worked with the tech advisor for your state, because you only get one time to make a first impression, and you don't want to lose that chance. So you really want to get there, get early, do your homework, work with your tech advisors of your state, do the pitch review. I absolutely almost insist that that should be a requirement before you go to pitch, because by the time you show up at the event, the tech scouts are expecting a certain caliber of presentation. And it's very critical that all of us here ensure that that is the case with each of you. And each of the advisors are vested in your success. So work with them, take their advice, take their suggestions, improve on your presentation, and so as to improve your chances of success at the pitch events. The same thing applies to the poster sessions. There is a profile of how to do it, and work with the advisors on building that, because we don't want posters to not communicate and put your best foot forward to advisors. So with that, Rick, I'll stop and I'll leave it open for them to ask questions. But the takeaway that I want you all to take is this is incredibly valuable for small businesses to build traction, to socialize your innovation internally with the DoD and to build traction. I can't tell you when that will happen, but I'll tell you that it'll positively happen, and it'll help you move your product forward. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Bijo. Appreciate that. Is there anybody who has any questions for Bijo in the last few minutes before he has to take off? Okay, quiet crowd today, Bijo, but thank you very much.
Rick,
yeah.
Rick, if I may, just kind of occurred to me while I was stepping. I've got another 10 minutes, but what I wanted to say was, folks, if you would add in the chat box, what is it about the event that really attracts you, and what's your expectation from the event? We'd like to get your responses, and there is no wrong answer. So if you just put in the chat box what you would like to see come out of the event for you, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Hi, Bijo.
Yeah,
This is Sandeep.
Yes, go ahead, Sandeep.
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
All right. I'm looking forward to talking to you soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Glad to do that. Sandeep, if you may, go ahead and be the first person. What would you like to see happen for your innovation with this event?
I have attended one last year, and I was thoroughly impressed. We have you said the key word is to engage. So I know about this since last time, and you highlighted it right now. So I appreciate that. And the idea for a company to attend an event like this is to get exposure, proper amount of exposure to the right people, so that we and our technology goes to those appropriate individuals that are in those institutions, whether it is DoD and under DoD, all the other departments. So it is very vital for us as CEOs, company owners, and the company itself to showcase our technology to them. And although we are not walking out of there with a contract, that is very, very evident. I think we need to have a golden middle, so to say, that uh, that it has to go beyond just engagement, something that we could do. And I understand the goal of the encountering innovation is not to get a contract. I completely, totally understand, and I honor that. But I think that we could do something more. And I don't know how. I do not want to say I have the answers to that, but I think not for this, but maybe for the next year's innovation, we could implement something that could actually be beneficial for the company itself. Right now, the way I see it is that when last year I saw some people who are attending second and third year, and they still had not received any contract, so to say. So there has to be some follow through after the engagement is done. And as far as KSBC is doing, I know they are doing a phenomenal job, and I took efforts in reaching out to them. I met with Vicky and of course Alan as well. And of course, I'm being in Houston. I have been working with Rick, and I have reached out to you several times. What I would request is that we need to go slightly beyond with what we are doing, and nobody is expressing that. So please don't kill the messenger. I'm very, very humble in requesting that, and I am saying that from a perspective of the event holder, that how about I'm coming with a something a positive thing. What can we do to take it slightly ahead so that the companies like me have something beneficial coming out of it? That's all.
No, thank you for that, Sandeep. No, go ahead and write your notes in the chat box. We are seeing great text flowing into the chat box, and that's what we want to do. Now, I mean, I wish I could tell you that we could make it happen for you, but part of this engagement is we want to get honest feedback, right? We want to get honest feedback from the scouts, honest feedback to you as an innovator about what is it that they want, and vice versa. I kind of see ourselves as a catalyst to help all of the partners kind of listen and hear. Now, having said that, idea is to some way, and this is to everybody attending, some ways we as SBDC offices, for instance, could help you take that next step to maybe help increase that connection of it translating into a contract. Maybe it's a follow-on event, maybe it is individual. Don't know the answer to that, but would like to hear if there's something that any of the attendees from previous events feel that we could do as a group to help enhance that encounter, and so that it could translate it into a contract for you. So
I think, yeah, what you're suggesting makes complete sense. A follow-up event makes real good sense. And well, I think, yeah, I can stop at that. There are a whole lot of things I can say, but I think
Yeah.
that's enough. Yeah.
And Sandeep, and I when we met, and the several times, numerous times you've been on this, you're hitting on, and you're always vocal, which I like, because that's how we get good information. And the whole process of getting the contracts is not a straight line, and it's not a one-time thing, and it's not going to one event or anything like that. It's and I'm not quite sure what the geometric shape of the thing is, but there's many things that you have to do, and before things begin to link, and you're out doing all of those. What we need to do, and when we're talking about it here at the SBDC, is what does that really look like? and what is it that we could participate in? Because if you wait once a year for an event, try to make an event be all encompassing and do everything for everybody, that's very limiting. We've discussed and are in discussions, trying to figure out, okay, if we have an event every year or we have it every other year, are there selective things? And I'll throw out matchmaking, doing a couple of matchmaking events where we reach out farther than we have before, do it a little differently, just make it a little bigger, but just do that on maybe twice a year or something like that. Or find an area of the manufacturing sector where maybe we have 2 or 3 that focus on different things that allow people to get together easier and don't waste their time. The biggest thing is there's an algorithm out there that is going to have us do a lot of different things and then help steer you without you having to go through and do all that work and try to figure it out. And I think, the times I've talked to you, you've been very good at pointing out, hey, this was good, but it stops here. There needs to be something beyond that. Well, what is that? And those are the things that we want to, in the next year, really start focusing on, because there really is an algorithm out there that's going to make it easier. But right now, I'm not smart enough to do it. And when I used to meet with the Small Business Executive Council at NASA, I would throw stuff out, and they were real good at saying, hey, you're missing this. You really should be doing this a little bit differently. Those are the comments that we need from the small businesses that are struggling, and they're all struggling at various degrees, to help us come up with a better plan.
Hey, Rick.
So, yeah.
Hey, yeah, I was just gonna add to what you're saying. We realize that, as we've been doing these conferences, and that's the primary reason why we started really working with matchmaking last year, trying to, and that was really our first major foray into that, and we're trying to do more of it this year, in bringing contractors in that are looking for technologies, and really, especially promoting the relationships between the small businesses that show up too. Interestingly enough, one of the companies that came to this conference a couple of years ago, he told Alan and I, initially I was like, wow, he's upset. He said, I came to the conference and I didn't really feel like I got a lot out of it doing our pitches and everything. And but then as he was saying that, he said, but what the big thing that came out of it is I found another company that was in another state that could build my prototypes for me. And he said the whole conference was worth that one contact. He said it was extremely valuable, not for the reasons you were expecting, but it created a collision of people in a critical mass to make things happen. So we realized that happens, and we can't necessarily control that. We can't make those collisions happen, but we can enhance them. It's like planting a garden. You can put the seed in the ground and you can dump water on it. You can try and do some things, but in the end, it's the seeds deal. Somebody asked an interesting question here in the chat, an important question. What's the difference between the tech transfer and the matchmaking? And there's a very big difference. The tech transfer, when we're talking about that, we're talking about that's the pitch time and the real focus on the DoD tech scouts, connecting with them, being able to show them what you're working on and see if there's a fit within the DoD at some point, that they can either refer you to, or give you feedback on how you might better relate, or maybe make an introduction. They can't always, but sometimes they can make an introduction to somebody that might have the knowledge. So that's that avenue, and that's a private pitch between you and the tech scouts. And they represent, you wouldn't even believe how many different technologies I've seen them go, wow, I really need that. It's like, you're kidding me. They have a wide range of things that they're looking for, and that they're helping other scouts that aren't even in the room. They're passing stuff back and forth and around all over the place. So once you get in kind of in that network, your information tends to get out there within that DoD area. The matchmaking is more the commercial side. You can correct me, Rick, if you want to go into more detail, but it's more of the commercial side. You've got other small businesses that are there. You have a chance to look at their bluff statements, their bottom line up front, and say, wow, that kind of overlaps a little bit with what we do, or that's something I've been looking for, that to help make those collisions happen and those potential networking connections happen. And then we bring in some of the larger companies, and we allow them, instead of most matchmaking, we have people just sign up and say, I want to meet with Northrop Grumman. So Northrop Grumman just gets overwhelmed with all day with people that want to talk to them. But we're trying to let them choose who they want to talk to. And when they get to select who they're going to talk to, they're more interested in coming. And I don't remember the numbers last year, but they met with quite a number of companies last year, but it was all at their request. So, when
and it was Boeing. It was Boeing that selected, I think, 7 or 8. And the feedback I got was that there were about 4 that they definitely were interested in putting it on their preferred provider list. And there was 1 in particular that they liked. And it was a machine shop, which, typically there's a lot of those. And they were actually going to be introducing this company to 2 of their project managers on 2 projects that they had going. And that's kind of great connections. The other piece of this was when I started going back and asking, hey, what's the feedback? How did it go and everything? Actually, the one, and I expected some of them to say, oh, it was a waste of time and everything. I didn't get any of that. In fact, there was one where it was somebody from Kansas, somebody from North Carolina, I believe. And the person from Kansas said there wasn't a good match. We weren't going to be able to do anything, but we were both in kind of the same industries, and they had some contacts that I could reach out to. And so they made contact. So that worked. There was somebody from Texas and somebody from Kansas that said, hey, we're getting ready to put a new product out, and we're looking for somebody who's going to be able to do some of the parts, and they were metal parts. And we've already made arrangements 2 months from now when we're close to get together, and we're going to go down and we're going to see their operation. So that's what comes out of the matchmaking. The key is that if you have a list and you see the type of work that we're talking about, somebody on that list of companies, and actually interesting, we got one of the things, somebody's interested in looking at domestic microcircuitry manufacturers. That's exactly what we're talking about. By having a list, they go down through, they find somebody that looks like they hook up, or we can reach out and we can actually try to find somebody for you. Then when you talk with them, you're making a much better connection. It's not hopefully you'll run into the right person kind of a thing. It's very selective. And last year when we did it virtually, by doing it virtually, they selected who they wanted to, and they talked to exactly who they wanted to, versus going in and trying to work a room, which can work, but it was a way of doing a little better job with the with the matchmaking. So anyway, from here, did you have anything else, Bill?
I was, but I was muted.
Oh, well,
Vicky's
you
in
can
control here.
say it now.
I
Did
don't know.
Vicky
She's
muted
power
you?
tripping down here. I don't know. I'm not sure about this. But yeah, well, part of the process, and a number of you have already pitched before, so you know this, and you can attest to the fact that we're growing and we're learning along the way. But part of this, even in the preparations, is to help you in your company. It's not just about getting your technology in front of somebody. It's about helping you better understand your technology and why it might be significant to somebody, especially in terms of the tech scouts, the DoD tech scouts. You know, why should the DoD care about your technology? And how do you speak to them? How do you communicate that information to them in meaningful ways without, you know, sidetracking? How do you maximize that interaction with them? And you know, we're always learning this process, but a lot of times when you're sitting in, when you're pitching to the tech scouts, they'll bring up things that you've never thought of before. It's like, have you ever considered using it in this type of application over here? And you're like, no, but I could do that. It's like, that's very important. So a lot of times it's not necessarily that they don't have a check writing ability, but they may very well know people that might be customers down the road. So that's who you're talking to. And what you really want is their feedback as much as anything. Is it, okay, how do I need to be thinking in order to move this thing forward? And but the commercialization side, with the matchmaking side, I've heard tech scouts, and I've heard many other people in the SBIR program and others say, you're going to make, in general, you're going to make more money on the commercial side than you're going to make on the DoD side. And things move faster. The DoD is bureaucratic, you know. Commercial side, somebody can walk in and say, I like that product. I just want to buy one of those. The DoD says, I like that product. Let me run it through channels and I'll get permissions and, you know, down the road and check off everything. It might take me 6 months to a year to buy it, even if it was ready to sell tomorrow. So be thinking about both tracks while you're working on this, and let us, as much as anything, while we're working with you, we're not experts, but we can try and help you think about some of those different ways that your technology might apply in other areas and how you can expand your horizons a bit. It's really about that as much as it is about just communicating your technology to somebody.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, if nobody has any other questions, let's, Vicky, could you put up the schedule? We'll just quickly, we're not going to go through the whole thing, but we'll kind of talk a little bit about what the panels are going to be and who the primes that we've got coming and that kind of thing. And there we go. Vicky is in control.
Yeah.
Can everyone see it?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the actual schedule starting with Monday. And
Yeah,
it's
and
in progress.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm going to talk a little bit. I think what I'm going to do, because everyone can see this, I'm not going to read it. That'll waste your time. I want to talk a little bit about, we've got a couple of panels, and we've also got primes. And actually the panelists are going to pretty much also, they're going to include all the primes. So it's a little bit easier to do than that. The folks that we've got coming is Northrop Grumman. Northrop Grumman is coming, and of course, you know, they're going to be talking about they have one very large contract that they're working, which ultimately is $79 billion contract. The first phase of that is I'm trying to remember, I think it's about 13 billion. And and it is to redo their nuclear arsenal and not just change the actual nuclear missiles, but to where they're housed and everything is going to be redone on a consistent basis, apparently. And they are going to need a lot of small businesses doing a lot of different things. There's 5, I believe, very large companies that are going to be subcontractor to it. Lockheed is one of them. They're a subcontractor to Northrop Grumman on this. So she's going to be talking about it, but won't focus on, hey, here's where it's going and here's what we're going to do. There's going to be a big focus on what are the capabilities of the companies that they're going to need for subcontracting.
Hey, Rick,
And
can I
yeah.
add something?
Mhm.
From conversations we've had with them and presentations that they've done, this is really early stage yet for that. So this isn't something you're going to get a contract in the next 6 months over. This is several years out before you see trickle down. But if I understood it correctly, but what they're doing at this point, and you'll learn more about it at the conference than we could share here, is they're building up a database of companies to be able to handle this contract. And I'm not just talking about, wow, somebody that builds rocket engines or somebody that builds nuclear weapons. They need companies that are reputable, that pour concrete. They need companies that do all kinds of support at all different levels. Anything all the way down to maintenance on vehicles and anything in between. Most of your companies fit at some level in there as far as management or dealing with waste materials coming off of that, different, fastener technologies that might be incorporated. There's a wide range, and what they're doing right now is building a database of companies that they're working with, and to meet with them and say, okay, right now you're really not in a situation where you could be a preferred vendor, really be on our list and be ready for prime time. But you have time because we're not quite ready yet. So here's some things you might need to do to get ready to be on our list. So when we get ready to break ground and really do this work in earnest, we have a list that we're going to go to that's already ready to go. Am I saying that correct, Rick?
Yep, that's exactly right. And to be honest with you, probably 18 months, they're 18 months out to probably be getting really serious about their subcontractors putting out RFPs and things of that nature. And in many cases, there's going to be, there's things that you have to have, certifications that they're looking for certain types of things. And but they will be able to share those with you so that you can actually prepare, because getting on the preferred provider list is big. And in most cases, that preferred provider list will not be with Northrop Grumman. It'll be with one of the subcontractors, and they'll let you know who the subcontractors are. And there's going to be discussions on, well, how do you get on those? One of the panels will be talking, they will be talking about, well, what are the things you have to get on someone's preferred provider list?
Right.
And we're going to try to make sure that we follow up, because if those subcontractors aren't there, we're going to be following up with them to try to let people know, how do you actually get on it? Because they're all different. Everybody does it differently. And there's no one way to do it, to be honest with you. So anyway, but thanks, Bill. No, that definitely helps.
And from what I understand, from listening to Diane Sterling with Northrop Grumman, you don't, just because you're not sure that you're ready doesn't mean that you can't start the process. In fact, now is the time to start the process.
Right.
Because now you have time to get ready. They may say, hey, you need to meet certain criteria. Do you have this in place? Do you have that in place? Well, I have half of it in place. Well, if you put the other half in place, you could be a preferred provider.
Right.
And now you have a window of time, instead of having them put out an RFP and you go, wow, I wish I could bid on this, but I'm not a preferred provider and I don't meet their qualifications.
Right. And you know, one of the, because people will ask, hey, how come they're so secretive about what they're doing and everything? And I used to work a lot with the 12 up at NASA, the 12 large primes that we had there. And although they would never really come out and really tell you, I think because they weren't allowed to, but it was very obvious. The one thing they didn't want was to get 10,000 companies a month needing information and needing a response, et cetera, et cetera. So what they would do in what I thought was one of the best methods was they had you fill out a form and send it in, and with no hopes of ever hearing from them again. And they would slowly start to go through those because they had their own, you know, they didn't have an army to put on these things. And so what would happen is it looks like they sort of stonewall you and you never hear back from them. But the good ones, if it's filled out correctly, and it looks like it's got some potential, then you would hear back from them. And the next step, because there were small businesses that this happened to, they would turn around, and once they found one, it looks like it was something they were looking for. They would call them up and would do, well, what used to be in person, but now it's Zoom. And they would do a Zoom call with one of the buyers to see if it looked like it was going to fit. But the trick is to know what the links are to do that. And a lot of the primes, especially the ones that Northrop Grumman is going to be working with, what we'll do is we're going to try to be, on the lunch and learns especially, have people come in. This is how you actually do it. This is the information we're really looking for, so you don't get thrown in the basket. We're going to be doing more of that so that folks can get on those lists, because it takes you a long time to get on the list sometimes. But once you're on the list, you got a good shot at having RFPs be sent directly to you, because what they've done is they've done their market research, which they have to do in the FAR. They've already done their market research. They've already decided that these 5 are the ones that they think can do it. Once they've done that, whether it's an agency or whether it's a large prime, they can send the RFP directly out. They do not have to send it out to the world. And so that's where you want to be. You want to be on one of those direct routes where they send the RFP directly to you to get on. That process can be tricky, but once it's explained, it doesn't seem as tricky. I will say the one thing that's really important, and it's something that we need to help with, is to tell you what are the magic words that go in there. And maybe there's a certification that you're getting ready for or planned on doing in 6 months or something like that. Maybe the time to put your name in the hat is after you've got that certification in there. And so that's some of what we're going to try to do in the lunch and learns, is let you know this is what you really have to have before you go in. And chances are you'll only have one shot at it. So let's make sure the buzzwords are in there and the certifications are in there before you send it in. Because I think once it goes out, I'm not positive they relook at it again. Maybe they do. I don't know, but it's not a straight line process. Anyway, I've spoken enough on that, but those are some of the things I think we can help clients to know, because you're never going to figure it out by yourself unless you run into the right person. And it's our job to reach out and bring those folks in and simplify the process. Anyway.
Yeah. We had
Go
another
ahead.
question come up here, Rick.
Yeah. Mhm.
is this event going to be virtual also? Can they present virtually? And the answer is yes. We're at this point, we're planning on having a hybrid event. We're planning on people joining virtually at all levels of the conference as much as possible. So, and we're working out the details, for even in a virtual setting, with posters and other things that are going on. So yes, we are working on that, and that's going to be that way. And the other thing, since you're putting some things in the chat, and you're asked about putting in there some, comments about it, about the event. The other thing I'd really appreciate if you put in there is, for those of you that haven't applied or that are hesitant applying, why is that? And it may be a scheduling conflict. Maybe you're not sure about this, or hey, maybe it's travel, or one of our clients I was working with, we're talking to him, and he's dealing with a major supply chain issue that encroaches on him in July, and he's extremely focused on that. And Rick, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So he's planning on being part of the matchmaking, but I'm sure that he could very easily say, I just don't have time. I have got to keep my business from going under for the supply chain issues. So if you want to just put your comments in there and just be open about it, if you're hesitant for some reason, or, if there's some issue that even it's something you think we wouldn't necessarily care about, put it in there anyway, or you can put it in privately to Vicky if you want to, and then we can learn from that.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Thanks, Bill. And to that too, just a point that to make on the matchmaking, if it turns out that you come and you're going to be meeting with someone that actually you'd like to have one of your buyers or one of your engineers or something like that be on, we're making this such that you could be in the room and have your engineer just plug in virtually, and then the other person can be in the room and they could do the same thing. Not quite sure how we're all making all that happen, but we're learning the new technology. But that's what we're planning to be able to do. So if it's just you coming, and you need to reach back to somebody else for that discussion, you can do it. We'll do it through Zoom sessions.
Yep, very much. And also that, we're
And I'll be right back.
We're anticipating that other companies will be able to do that too. Even some of like the large primes, they might meet and say, hey, I really need you to talk to one of my engineers to see if we can get something going. And we have also facilitated matchmaking after the conference too, when somebody reaches back and says, hey, that company, I really would like to meet with that company based on some new information that has come up. So that's important. Any other comments before I have another thing I wanted to mention?
I'm gonna stop the sharing and go to the website so we can just
Okay.
kind of walk through.
Okay. Vicky's gonna stop that share. I was just gonna mention, she's gonna go to the website and we can just briefly just glance at it for those that might not have seen it or haven't been on it for a while. But one of the things I was gonna mention was with the Tech Scouts, there's constantly other things going on, kind of addressing Sandeep, some of the things you shared, and I wasn't offended by that at all. We realize it's an area that we're continuing and trying to do better. I was just on the phone yesterday with for the conversation with one of the Tech Scouts about a possible partnering that we might be able to work with small companies that need stuff done, where it might be a contract vehicle that they can very easily get money sent to get things done faster than the usual snail's pace that sometimes our government works at. So we're investigating those things and how we can do that. So,
Here's a question.
just a second, here's a question. What's the,
Is there an opportunity to provide the KSBDC team with functional prototypes in advance in order for a more effective interface with the event, especially virtual presentations?
that's an interesting question. And I would say, if you want to do that, get a hold of me or get a hold of Alan, or Vicky. We all talk. Well, or Rick too. All four of us talk. We've been, how many
Yeah.
meetings have we been on in the last? I feel like Zoom is like my son-in-law or something. But we can see about how they might be able to make that happen. So if that's something you need to have happen, where you think if I could just have a real device in front of somebody, but I could attend virtually, we might be able to work that.
It's a brave new world, taking this virtual and the in-house. So we're also kind of learning as we go.
You
So
want to pull up that website?
Yeah.
Okay, Vicky's pulling up the website, Rick.
okay. Oh, all right.
Let me get to it first.
In just a second.
Bear with me.
Oh.
Vicky is in charge of the vertical and the horizontal.
Yeah, that's right there.
I just want to make sure it's pulling in the right one.
Okay. So can you see our website now? Should be able
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, we can see it.
I'll just walk through it very briefly. This talks about the event itself. You'll, up here in the upper right-hand corner, you can click on that and it will download the agenda for the week. This is where we will post the innovators' bluff statements once they're finalized. We have also created a page for training and support information. On the left-hand side, here's the tech transfer. And if you click on the training materials and videos, you'll see where we've got video links to recordings that have been done for each step. And it covers all of the different documents that we're requesting you put together. And then we've got supporting documents that go along with each of those video links. And then we have done the same thing with the matchmaking component as well, video links, and then some supporting documents and training materials for and then we have registration and payment information, event pricing here, and then when you're ready to pay, you'll click on the payment to secure your event registration. If you haven't participated or haven't signed up to participate in Encountering Innovation, you can click there. And if you've never participated in Encountering Innovation or are not a Kansas SBDC client, you would click on the Apply for EI 2022 button. If you have been in the past a client or participated, just email me at eiadmin@ksbdc.net and I would send you the link to apply or to complete the application.
Otherwise, it will sign you up. It will run you through becoming an SBDC client again with a lot of extra questions.
Here. Is the company limited to one bluff topic or
Okay.
can more than one bluff be
Okay.
submitted?
If you want to submit more than one topic, that is fine. We ask it to be one topic per bluff. I mean, I wouldn't submit 10 or something, but if you want to submit a second one, that's fine. And make sure that they're somewhat distinct from each other. They may be a somewhat related technology, but we don't want just a rehash of the same thing. And then that will show up as two separate entities in the matchmaking. And depending on the final decisions on pitching, if you're signing up for the tech transfer pitching sessions, you may end up getting a second pitch slot if you want one. So, but in general, yes, you can sign up for more than one thing. And as far as registration, I think that might be two different registration fees, but I'm not sure. You need to check with the registration people on that. That's Vicky's not in control of that.
No.
So
From what Alan told me, I think there was a separate charge for workshops.
That's correct. There's a bundle. And I can
Right.
get to that for you.
Right. Yeah. I definitely would like that. Like to have that. Now, one of the things.
Here is the pricing as it stands right now.
Okay. All right.
So they've got some timeframes, early bird. And some deadlines, you'll get the different rates.
there's an extra pitch slot, 99.
Yeah, and an additional pitch slot. So if you do have another technology, there would be an additional fee.
I see.
But here's the bundle rates to participate in the workshops as well.
Okay.
And you can find on the agenda, let me go back and I'll pull the agenda up here. It downloads, so. Can you see
It's
Let's
coming
go
up.
There.
okay. At the end of down at the bottom of the agenda, they do
Uh-huh.
have a list of the workshops that they have scheduled.
Okay. So one of the things that I basically do want to take all of that, but my concern is that if I have a booth over there and there will be people and I want to be there in person, and if I am actually being there and then there is nobody else to man the booth and I have to attend the workshops too, how do I manage that?
Well, I think, and on the schedule, there's especially designated times, that networking times where you'll definitely want to man your booth. But they tried to schedule the workshops away from those times. So it's not like, well, you can either be in your booth in a networking session or you can be at this workshop. They're assuming that.
Okay, so the timings are separate, you mean?
Yes, as much as possible, yes. And they also, a lot of the workshops, I think all of the workshops, the goal is to offer them at two different time slots. I think a lot of times one is in the morning, one's in the afternoon, or maybe the next day or whatever.
They'll have, like you'll see here on Tuesday at 8:30, class 4, 1, and 7. They're repeating so that if you want to go to the accounting for government contracts, they'll offer that again so that you won't.
It's offered again at
Offered at
1:15.
another time so that you can attend.
Okay. So on another but a much lighter note, Alan told me that he liked me so much that the fees of the 249 for me was $2.49.
Oh, man.
Why we don't put Alan in charge of the money?
You weren't supposed to tell everybody else on the call, Sandeep. Now we're doing it. Vicky will take control of it, though.
Rick, we have another question. Who are the major and minor primes attending?
Yeah, okay, so let me get that list. Okay, so of course we've got Northrop Grumman that's going to be coming. And then we're trying to get Honeywell. We haven't made a contact, but I'm pretty sure we'll have Honeywell there. USDA is planning to be there. EPA will be there. GSA will also be there. And there's a good chance we're actually trying to get the Army there, but they're they're asking permission. So hopefully we'll know that soon. But we've also got NASA at Marshall Space Flight Center, and David Brock, who actually spoke last year, he's going to be participating both in the panel, and he'll be selecting people on the matchmaking to talk to. And he does his just a little bit differently. He has a large prime council, same as I had in Houston. And he's going to be looking at, I think he chose 10 last year. And he matched with them, you know, he did a matchmaking session with them. And then what he did was he took the ones that he felt were going to be best aligned with the needs of his 12 large primes, and then invited them to come and speak to his prime council, and it was all done virtually, and it worked really well. So those are the agencies and the large primes that we've got coming. And we have asked all the agencies, well, the primes and the agencies, and I'm actually getting that information in now, which will get out to people, what they buy and what they're looking for. And of course, Northrop Grumman has got a laundry list you wouldn't believe, including new technology that they're looking for, which is more in line with what Bill's doing with those folks. So that's in a nutshell who we've got coming. And there's actually going to be a couple different things. One, about half of them are going to have a table. They're also going to be on a panel, and they're going to talk again how they, you know, what they buy, you know, who they are, what they buy. Because with USDA, you know, very few people that I've talked to really know what they do. And same with EPA. In fact, I had a discussion with them, and they sent a laundry list of the kind of things that they buy, and which was actually pretty interesting. There was some things I had no clue that they actually bought. And so we'll be getting those out to folks. But on that panel, that's what they're going to talk about. How do you make contact, and how do you make contact with their primes, and how do their primes kind of operate as far as, you know, trying to get on their preferred provider list and that. And so that panel will be talking all of those things, what they buy, what they're really looking for, and how to make connections with the companies, their prime contractors. How are you going to make connections with that? And if they don't have all that information there, they're going to be putting a good deal of it in a slide deck, which will be available to everybody.